Hi guys, it's your girl Mima, and I'm here again with Live Proof, and we'll be talking about reducing anxiety. Today we've got a guest. Would you like to, get in it? Yeah.
Hello. So my name is Yukila Prophet. I am a drama psychotherapist from Birmingham, but I work across London and Nottingham, working with children who've experienced many forms of trauma, including sexual abuse, anxiety, depression, bereavement, eating disorders, and much more. And I'm happy to be here, so thank you, Mima.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you. I'm really interested in what we're going to learn today. Quick question before jumping into it. What got you into, your career choice? How did you come across it? What made you choose it?
So my initial background is I'm a trained actor. As you can tell by my personality, you see what I mean?
Hey.
Yeah. I'm a trained actor. So I went to drama school. I did go to drama school. I attended Birmingham School of Acting, National Youth Theatre, and Identity Drama School. And I actually done Camp America as well. So when you go work away for the summer, and I worked as a drama specialist there. So what happened was, I love acting. I love theatre the most. Like, theatre is beautiful. It's that raw connection between the audience and the actors on stage. But it was this thing when I'll perform and then I'd finish the show and guys were like, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing." Da, 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 da. And I felt like there was this sense of I wanted more. I was just like, there's something there that's not, ain't getting there.
It's not complete.
Yeah, So there was that kind of thing, and I was kind of like, how do I get that? I didn't come across a drama therapist when I was in America. And I was just like, okay. And she's like, yeah, we use acting and drama and puppetry as a tool to communicate. So sometimes when we don't want to speak about things, we can use the arts as a communication method, so we can distance ourselves from that. And so from then I came back to the UK. I finished off my degree in acting, BA Honours. So it was Applied Performance, Community and Education. And so looking at how we can put performance in the community and make it educational. In psychotherapy terms, it's psychoeducation. So then I finished, I have my son, I have a 7-year-old, and that pushed me more as well. Pardon?
I said that's great. Congrats. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah. And his personality, in terms of understanding how he communicates, really kind of pushed my creativity to kind of use it as a bonding moment between me and my son. And then I went on to do my master's when he was about 4 years old in drama psychotherapy. Now, for me, understanding how sometimes we can go through experiences and the trauma can be that deep and heavy on the heart, and we can't talk about that, is how do we use story to help relieve some of that pressure? Yeah. So I come across different stories. And when I started looking at, for example, like Disney and looking at kind of Greek mythology, I'm thinking, whoa, a lot of these stories are quite deep. And I never knew before, because when we're watching things at home, we're watching things on Netflix or Amazon Prime, we're just watching the movie and then it's finished. We're probably eating popcorn at the same time, but we never actually break down the individual characters and look at what was they feeling at that point,
That's crazy. Crazy thing is, just a few weeks ago, my friend was watching Narnia with his girlfriend, and he messaged me and he's like, do you know what I just noticed? Because he's 22 now, and he's like, the movie's been out for ages. And he's like, do you know what I just noticed? These kids are living in a time where people's houses are being bombed. It's a war. Yeah. The reason their parents are not around is because they were sent away so that they wouldn't die in the war. And I'm like, when you're little, you don't really clock on that. You're just thinking, oh, they're going into a closet. They can talk and play with lions. But you're not clocking how deep and sad their reality is. And once they walk through that closet, it's not that anymore. It's just crazy. It's really crazy.
But isn't that crazy how sometimes make-believe can save your life?
Don't even get me started.
Yeah,
I love daydreaming.
Do you see that?
I love daydreaming just for that very reason, that, it gives me at least 2 minutes away from everything that I can't control in this world. That's just it. That's just it. Well, if we're getting straight into the video now, straight into the video now. What is anxiety and what causes it?
Anxiety, okay, it's such a big umbrella. And normally it's about overwhelming kind of fear of worry that can range from mild to very severe. And it can happen at any point in someone's life. Now, but I must like mention as well and make the point that you see with anxiety, occasionally it can be quite normal, a very normal part of life. For example, sometimes we can feel quite anxious when we've got exams coming up, when we have a very important stage happening in our life, people are getting married, anxiety can come then. When we have to make a decision or to choose between two big important factors, anxiety can come up then. A job interview. So normally it's something that comes up when we are about to transition to something or something that we don't have control over, and we have to make a decision. And sometimes it's about losing control. And so when we feel anxious, we can feel very nervous, very scared, you know, because sometimes we're scared about the outcome. We're scared that we can't manage or we can't cope. And that's what anxiety is really about. It's about that overwhelming fear of something going wrong or something going right as well, and not knowing to manage those emotions connected to that.
Okay. I think, is there a way to tell like the difference between anxiety and like just a normal sense of just, you know, I'm just nervous, and then how can I word this, like how can I tell if I'm having an anxiety attack compared to a panic attack compared to that I'm just nervous? It's not that, you know, it's not that exaggerated. It's just, you know, you're just a little nervous. What keeps them, what's different about all of those?
Okay, so just having kind of general anxiety is just kind of sometimes it's one-off moments. So it's, for example, like I said, mentioned before, an exam. You know, when people tend to go through exam periods or exam season, we're nervous. And then the moment that's happened, all of a sudden those nervous feelings go away. Or a job interview. Reason why we get really anxious around a job interview, if we really want that job and we know like the benefits of that job, maybe I've got a salary increase, maybe I have to feed the family, maybe I have my birthday, my 21st birthday to pay next year, so I need this job. But the feeling that you would go through if you didn't get it, that scares you. Do you see what I mean? So you'd be really anxious at that period because this means everything to you right now. Whereas anxiety that is kind of where it becomes excessive and persistent, it's normally about a lot of different parts of life. So normally that can be attached to different things like OCDs as well. You can become very like anxious about just even leaving the house, normal social places, and everyday situations. So normally when it's excessive anxiety, it has a negative impact on everything you do. How you communicate with your family, friends. Sometimes people start going to school, education, to work. You can feel quite isolated and feel like you're alone. So you start to almost withdraw yourself from any kind of public spaces, withdraw yourself from people. That can include not answering your phone, removing yourself from social media. But it's normally at an excessive rate. So it's almost you're here 1 minute and you're gone the next. So I kind of move on to kind of the signs of anxiety. So often people kind of get confused in what are the signs of anxiety and the signs of a panic attack, etc. And so when we think about signs of anxiety, often people sometimes feel sick. They can get very clammy, sweaty hands. They can feel quite faint when they're experiencing anxiety. It can increase heart rate, rapid breathing. Also, you can feel quite lightheaded. But can feel very close to having a panic attack. So you can feel quite, when you start getting really lightheaded, you can almost say that you're struggling to breathe, but you're not. It's because you're feeling all these things at one time. Also, it's very connected to your bowels. So you never hear someone say, oh, I've got a gut feeling. It's because of that mirrored thing, you know, that gut feeling, our second brain's right down here. So, you know, it's when we get really anxious, all of a sudden we can have a lot of gas, we can have the runs, diarrhea, and we can also often pee a lot. So we're running to the bathroom quite frequently, because our body is reacting to that high level of stress and it can't cope. And when a body can't cope, automatically we need the toilet. So whether it's coming out through vomiting, that's one way. And then obviously it can affect your bowel movements, and which can also leave you very distressed, especially if you're in a public place, and people are aware of your anxiety. Other people also can freeze and disassociate. So they can just like tune out of what's going on and normally give off a blank stare. Their body can become very tense and rigid, and you can often see them sweating, and also not engaging with anything that's going on before them. And it's often people will notice in a room with them in terms of, is that person okay? Because they're not moving, they're not responding, and they're kind of in a very distressed state.
I'm trying to think of, because I feel like I've been through odd situations where like randomly I could be like overthinking something that could be just, a minor thing. And then before I know it, I have like my heart's just pumping really quickly. Breathing's become a little bit harder. And then obviously me just thinking, you know what, it's just, probably a heart palpitation or something. I don't know. Maybe you're just overreacting, overthinking, it's all in your head and all of that. And then out of nowhere, I'm like perfectly fine. Or like out of nowhere, I just get these shivers and whatnot. But I don't know. I try not to Google everything because, it's not always true. It's just like, it's written. Yeah. Google could be your best friend and your enemy at the same time.
Oh, yeah. It results in everybody dying, doesn't it? Everyone's going to die. That's with Google. Dr. Google.
Yeah, definitely. But going into like my community or friendship group or family, how would we be able to, like, obviously you've spoken of ways that I could be able to tell within myself, but if I'm just with a friend or a family member, how am I able to tell that this is something they're going through that they might know and not, have told me, or they might not even know that, they've got anxiety? How would I be able to like detect it, and how am I able to help them without, or accommodate what they need to like, get better without making them feel, like they're a hustle or something?
Yeah, I think sometimes as well when it comes to friends or family members, sometimes people don't want to feel like they're a burden on that friendship, or like they're a problem, or sympathy, like you feel sorry for them. Normally when you have a friendship group or you're a family member, you'd have some sort of bonding with that individual. So you would know when something's probably out of the norm for that individual. And the best thing is to start the meditation work with them. So think of different grounded techniques you can do together. And that maybe is a simple touching, like hands, holding hands and breathing together. So in inviting them to close their eyes and for them to focus on your voice and your voice alone. And so on the count of 3, I want you to take a deep breath in and exhale. Because we get so much from breathing together. But what it happens is your voice is a reminder of that she's present or he's present in the room.
Yeah.
And so sometimes in order to not feel alone, like I said before, with anxiety, we often feel quite isolated, that I'm going through this and alone and no one really understands. But if you're doing a lot of the meditation and ground techniques with that person, they're no longer feeling alone. It's almost like you've created a bubble shield around the both of you. And you're taking them through those grounding techniques. You're taking them through that moment. They're holding onto your voice, and you have to see it as you're at one end of the tunnel and they're at the other end. And I don't know if you've played that game in the dark, where you turn the lights off and the person's blindfolded and they have to find your voice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, as
no,
children.
I haven't played that game, but we've played Marco Polo.
But it's very similar.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And what gets the other person to the other end of the room is that they zone out every bit of noise. Yeah. So that means everything that they're thinking all these thoughts, these feelings, they stop. And you're asking to focus on just one thing, your voice. So you drown everything else out. And then that's your voice is going to pull them all the way through. And after you get to that stage, you open up a space to talk or to explore, you know. Or sometimes another thing as well, if someone doesn't want to talk about something, you can get a piece of paper and you give your friend or family member crayons, felt tips, anything. And both of you just start sketching and drawing, swivel lines on the same piece of paper. And eventually they overlap. Yeah. And normally when things overlap, that's that need for connection. That person's ready to talk. When people tend to stay on their side of the bubble, their side of the paper, it's normally saying that I need this space, I need to be alone, I don't want to connect. Yeah. So these are ways that you can find subtle ways to approach a difficult conversation without asking straight, direct questions. And I'm guessing this is what you're talking about sometimes. How do I approach something that can be quite concerning without, you know, almost targeting them and saying, oh, you have a problem. Yeah. And I would say stick to the art, stick to things that are all memories. So if you have a picture or a video recording of something that you guys have done that is fun together. And revisit that place, revisit a happy place. And these are all different forms of meditation, is revisiting a happy place and focusing on one single thing. And then when you open your eyes, talk about that one object. And what you're doing again is that you're removing all these other negative thoughts, all these worries, you're moving the anxiety out of the way, making room for a reconnection back to this present time and place.
That's good. That's good. That's a crazy way of putting it. I feel like, because I've tried, I wouldn't say it was anxiety for the situation, but I remember the one time my friend was going through a breakup. We went on a video call, like all three of us, and it was just like the energy level in the conversation was just so negative. And I can deal with like very negative situations, but like, why go through it when you could be positive about the whole thing. So I was just like, I just started singing, and then they started singing the song I was singing, and then before we know it, we were all crying.
The joy.
We were all just crying, and I'm like, guys, why are we crying? Why are we crying? But I feel like subconsciously we all just needed to connect with like one thing, and the song choice and everything was just so right to bring us all, because it was Best Part by her and Caesar. So we sang that song and just everybody started crying, and we all just connected in that moment, which I feel it's really good. It's really good. Like, we didn't even have to say why we were all crying. We're just like, we know where we're at. We know where
but this is what you're saying, because think about when you talk about kind of body language, and when we look at the communication table, and body language plays up, it's like something like 57%. And if as people we respond through music or through dance, we respond through a lot of ritual things, which is saying that actually words are 7%. Words are nothing. But when we really connect, and this is why we cry, when we watch something on TV as well, and we connect to it, and we feel the emotion, what that person's going through, what do? We cry. That tear just rolls, doesn't it?
It just goes.
It just goes. The eyes go up because we're connecting. And right there and then, you knew what you needed, but you knew what everyone else needed.
True.
So what happened then, when you knew what you needed, which was sung to connect to, you projected that positive energy on everyone that was present. Yeah, because a lot of things, negativity can be projected, but also we forget that positivity can be projected. Yeah, and you learn the power of different things. So your voice at that present time was power. Yeah, because it connects, and then the words of the song you were singing, It allowed your friends that were present to process how they felt, and they were hurt in the situation. They were hurt, they were triggered, and they didn't feel valued. They didn't feel seen. They didn't feel that there was a tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you brought them back into the space of, let's not think about tomorrow. Let's think about today, right now.
True.
Yeah.
True. That's deep. That's deep. It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is deep.
That's good. So, talking about how you can project positivity, and people tend to forget that, it's made me realize also that it is so quick and easy to be negative about anything. Positivity is like, it's really hard. Like, people will be like, oh my God, you're naive, or you're too hopeful, or too optimistic. And it's just like, you just need, and I'm not gonna lie, hope is a very dangerous thing to have. Hope is a very dangerous thing to have. But yeah, that's good. So just to ask for, like, obviously dealing with anxiety, panic attacks, all of those things, how can a person cope with it? Say, for example, I'm on the bus, I'm on my own. Obviously, it's a crowded bus. I can't have the space that I need. My phone's dead. I don't have music. How am I gonna deal with it? Like, I'm not with anyone I know. Because I did have a situation a few weeks ago. I was heading to work, got on the bus, and got on the bus. The bus was really dead. It was really early in the morning. The bus station was really dead. And I had no data on my phone, had no top up on my phone, couldn't call a friend, couldn't call anything. For some reason, I got the weirdest bus driver on the planet. Because I got to the bus station, and I closed my bag and I'm ready to go out, and this guy closes the door. And I don't know if it was me, but instantly, because I'm a person that's in my head most of the times. So in my head, I'm thinking maybe he didn't see me. But then I remember when I was walking towards him, he looked at me through the mirror that's there. So he will look each other in the eye. Why did he close the door? And I turned slowly around to, like, look at him and be like, well, the door's still closed. Why isn't it opening? And it's the look in his eyes that terrifies me instantly. I'm frozen. Like, I'm just standing there. I'm thinking, okay, I can call him out on making me feel uncomfortable, but then that would mean that I'd be standing here even longer trying to, explain my side of the thing. What does he want? Let me just get out of the situation now. There's literally almost close to nobody at the bus station. Nobody's in the bus but me and this driver. And I'm feeling like I've got no options. And he starts asking me, what's your name? But it's that look in his eyes. It's like, I'm a prey and there's nowhere for me to go. Like, no one's gonna help me. I'm stuck. It's that look in his eyes. And I remember just coming out of that situation when he's finally opened the door and I walk out, I'm shaking. I can feel myself shivering. And I'm just thinking to myself, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything. There's nothing for you to be scared of. And I want to call my friend, but I can't call my friend because obviously I don't have data and I don't have anything. I want to talk to someone, but I don't know who to talk about. And I've been in situations like that before, and talking to people didn't help because, one, they look at you like you want attention. Two, they tell you they don't believe you, which just makes it worse for you because you're thinking, why would I make it up? But then having to go through all of that, I kind of just like, I don't know. I don't even remember how I went through it. I feel like it actually bothered me for a whole week because then the following day I went to the shop. I went shopping and this man kept walking behind me. I feel like we were just walking down the same aisle, like coincidentally, but in my head, I felt like I was being preyed on. Like I felt I was being followed. Like he was trying to corner me or something. And I was just like, oh my God, what's going on? And had to sit down in a corner and just like hide inside coats and everything and just be like, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. But it's just like, I feel like that's not the way I should be dealing with it. And I feel like I don't fully understand why I felt that way or why it just prolonged in that sense. Like, I haven't been on a bus since that thing. Like, I went on a bus, but before getting on the bus, I look at the bus driver. If it's a male driver, I'm just like, a cow walk. A cow walk. It's just, I don't know why it's like really affected me as much as it did, because I don't know, maybe it's just that look he gave me, or it was just the whole, I felt like a captive in the situation. So I don't know if that's for, say, anxiety, panic attack. I really don't know where that goes on the spectrum, but I would very much like to understand what was going on.
Well, I think for me is well, one, if someone made you feel uncomfortable like that, you should always report it. Report it to the local bus garage or to police if you felt threatened anyway. The problem is the reason why it continues. So I don't know if you've heard of something called fight or flight. And that's a response that we go through. Sometimes we are up against something that is quite scary and triggering, and we can either choose to attack it face on or run away from it. The problem is with fight or flight, once we start running away from situations, we keep doing it. We keep running, and we'll keep going for the same experiences until we challenge it. And sometimes the challenge it is not to say, go back to the man and say, listen, It's sometimes maybe, you know what I mean? It's maybe to be explore the feelings that took place at that time. Explore what happened for you? How did you feel? And then have those feelings acknowledged that you had a right to feel that way. And maybe as well revisiting the bus. Now, obviously, the bus is a trigger for you, and also men, when you're on your own, is also a trigger for you. So what happens is that you've went through re-traumatization over and over again. So anytime you've been in a space where you've been alone, you felt scared, and what you've thought back to is the incident on the bus. You see what I mean? And that's what happens when trauma, when we talk about triggers and trauma, it doesn't have to be the same thing happen again, but there can be things, elements that are repeated that is similar and makes you feel the same way that you did before, or makes you feel similar. And that can happen with music, it can happen with food, it can happen with smells, it can happen with like sounds or touch can re-trigger those things. So even though you was in a supermarket the following time, it was a fact that you felt a presence that was welcoming behind you. And that made you feel trapped. It made you feel small, which is why you engulfed yourself into the clothing rack. You pushed yourself back. You needed to feel held. You needed to feel that somebody else was there, almost protected as well. Because what do we do when we are scared? We back ourselves up against the wall, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think it's something definitely that you can explore with like a family member. But if it continues, it's something that I would recommend therapy for, just for a safe space to explore it further. Because the problem is it's transport, and you don't really want it to continue on into your adult life where you can never get on a bus again, or because it's a male driver. Because obviously you don't work for the bus company, so you can't control who's on flight.
Yeah, true.
But I would say if you report it as well, how that would have gave you back a sense of power, in a sense, because he obviously, the person who is the driver, it may not have been his intention to make you feel uncomfortable or whatever, but it's a reminder of etiquette. His job is to drive the bus, and you felt uncomfortable with that. So your feelings at that time needed to be validated, that you're feeling uncomfortable and that person's presence is making you feel that way.
Yeah.
And then also all the feelings that took place when that was happening. What was happening for you right then? What was the things that was going through your mind? What was the worst thing that you imagined would happen? Because you mentioned that you felt quite stuck, like, what if this guy does this? What if this guy does that? So that means you're thinking like 100,000 things at one time. And that's going to affect your breathing. It's going to make you feel sick. It's going to make you just want to run and react on impulse even.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if you want to approach going on the buses again, sometimes it's what it could be like, speaking to mom or dad or whether parent or guardian, or maybe it'd be a friend. Anyone that is a trusted adult that you think, or a trusted person that you feel safe with, and tackling that head on. And so getting on the bus, and maybe it's like, it's not a long journey the first time. Maybe it's just 2 stops. You know, obviously, if you got a bus pass, it would help. You know, if you're paying for those little stops, it can be quite expensive. But and then eventually, once you feel comfortable with a friend or a trusted person, then start that little journey on your own, just 2 stops. Or just 3 stops, until you build up the confidence to be in that space again. But I just want to use this time to validate that everything you felt in that moment or in that time is that you felt it for a reason, and that is not your fault. That's what made you feel that way. And that does not make you weak because you felt that way. That does not mean that you are less than because you felt that way. And you have the right and the freedom to travel in peace, free from harm, free from any type of negative atmosphere, and just own your power in how you navigate, and that your freedom in this place on this earth is to walk freely and be in the light all the time. And so I just want to pass that on to you and project that onto you. Yeah, no, it's okay. But in just for yourself, if you're in those spaces, when you start that journey, there's a few things you can try and do. So these are also known as grounding techniques. Similar to the breathing, is take a deep breath in, but count back from 10. And also when you breathe in, make sure you're breathing into the diaphragm, because a lot of us don't know how to breathe correctly. Sometimes we take a deep breath in, we do, so it goes here. You know, that doesn't really do anything. But when we take a deep breath in all the way down into the diaphragm, and you can find your diaphragm by doing this around your belly button and just going a big cough out, and you'll feel that your stomach muscle pull in, and that's where your diaphragm is. And so breathing right down into the diaphragm and then letting it out in counts of 10. And you can do that on a bus or a train, any journey that is quite subtle, that you're not drawing attention to yourself, because you spoke about what can we do in these very busy environments that are not drawing attention. The other things that you can do as well is use your senses. So if you're looking out the window, you can do the 5 things that you can see. So you're in the bus and you look at the 5 things you can see. So 1 might be the bell, 2 might be the window of the bus, 3 might be the tree outside the bus, 4 might be the dog that's sitting in the little section at the front, and the 5th thing might be the child that's chewing gum really loudly. And then 4 things that you can touch. Now, they may be things in front of you, so it may be the railing, it may be your top, it may be your jeans or your tracksuit bottoms, maybe a skirt, maybe anything. But connect your hands and start touching things. It could be each other.
Yeah.
And then 3 things that you can hear. Yeah. So these are things that you can do while your eyes are closed. 3 things you can hear. So that will involve drowning sounds out and allowing sounds to come in one by one. So like I said before, the child who's chewing gum quite loudly, you'd hear that and it would be really loud, come up with pop, pop. And then it may be a woman having a conversation on the phone. And then the other thing may be the bell going, So find 3 things you can hear. Then 2 things you can smell. Now, it may not always be pleasant environments when you can find 2 things you can smell. So you might want to switch off real quick when you're like, oh no, but 2 things you can smell.
Yeah.
And then 1 thing you can taste. Yeah. So sometimes when we feel quite anxious, our saliva in our mouth can feel quite warm. Yeah. And it can feel, or you might have just ate something before, so you may have the aftertaste of that in your mouth, or you may have had a chewing gum or a mint, so it can be quite minty. Or sometimes you can actually taste smells, You can taste smells, and not all of them are pleasant, as we know.
No.
Yeah. I think also like BO can be quite a strong smell that you can taste, isn't it? You can give quite a sour taste to the mouth. Also you can taste some people's perfumes if we're passing them on the street. So look at the 5 senses and the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we will also tag these at the end of the video and the clip, so people can look at these resources as well. Another thing is also revisit a childhood memory. Go to a happy place, and in this happy place you can visit. It can be a memory of a family holiday. It can be a memory of something that happened in school or a youth group. It could be something from a film. It could be a favorite toy, or and for you, it might even be song. It may be just going back to a song that you left to sing, and it may just be the verse of that song, like you want to repeat over and over again. And use that to keep you grounded in that moment, because that is your safety toolkit that you're building, that you're not reliant on external things for. Because I remember you spoke to me about not having no internet, or your battery almost dying, not having a paper and pen, not having music. So what happens? You need to find different ways to connect to things around you when you don't have the resources at that present time.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I know what to do now. But move on and overcome, because I'm not gonna lie, it actually kind of gets to me, and like it's crazy, because as much as because I believe that there's power in vulnerability. Like that's me. There's power in vulnerability.
Yeah.
And although I'm very selective as to who sees my vulnerability.
Amen to that.
It's like, I don't mind it, but sometimes I don't want it to feel like, for me, obviously, the situation, I feel like the world's gotten to a place where we've obviously normalized these type of things. So when you say it to certain people, they'd be like, oh, okay. And then you'd get very few people that are like, that's messed up. Like, you should report it. You should deal with that. And then it kind of like, and if you're not careful, you might find yourself surrounded by people who literally don't understand how bad this could possibly be. And they just be like, no, just get over it. Just get over it. It's nothing. You're okay. You're fine now. And then because you're surrounded by that environment or a community of people that literally, they don't really see how huge this is. And everybody else doesn't really, because they probably have never experienced it, or if they have, they were very chilled about it. It didn't really get to them. It might put you in a place, because I've met a few people. I've been certain settings where majority of my friends had, no experience, or they've had way so many experience that they weren't even bothered by it anymore. So coming out and saying it, oh, I've gone through this, and they just look at me like, don't worry, you're not alone, let's just carry on with our life. That's not really the reaction, because you don't know how long or how much strength it took me to get to a part where I was like, this is what I'm going through. Do you get me? So it's just like, I think people should really consider the surroundings of the people they're opening up to. Sometimes you might think that this is the right person, and it's not, because you might be like, okay, I'm okay. And then, for example, you fall out with that friend, and then you're stuck in that situation again. And now you don't have that same friend to tell you that, no, you're okay. It's nothing, it's nothing really. It's nothing really. And now you start to see how, where it could have just been a mild thing, it's twice it affects you twice as much. So that's also one thing I've picked up on. And yeah, just wanted to mention that. It's just definitely one thing I've picked up on.
I think sometimes what you're mentioning there is how we can have unhealthy coping mechanisms. And unhealthy coping mechanisms when sometimes we find someone who's experienced something just like us and think they get it, when actually it's that they kind of see themselves in you. So it's not that they understand how yours is different to theirs. It's almost like, oh, we can go through this together.
Yeah.
Now, that can be unhealthy, because I think similar traits of that is, for example, we're the same, but actually we're not the same, because we all have different triggers. And we all come from different upbringings, and we all have different ways of coping with different things. But however, if you have a negative way of dealing with something, you may end up projecting that negative way to me. So for example, like self-harm. Now, self-harm can be common in groups of people, because if a lot of people say, well, actually, they self-harm too, and that seems to help them do it, so I'm going to self-harm. But actually, like you said, if you just deal with something in a different way, or not deal with it on your own, but not look for kind of a shared experience of that,
yeah,
you wouldn't have learned that negative coping mechanism to deal with it. So it's like, you know, with like, you know, self-harm is very broad and everyone will have their own personal experiences of it. And one thing we will never ever do is tell someone to not do something. Because obviously the therapy work is all about healing and finding alternative ways to do things, alternative ways to heal. And whether that be solo journeys or family therapy, or having a bond with a close, trusted individual, or maybe a journey on your own where you're accessing these services on your own. And that may be through apps, that may free through other resources and other places. And if, you know, if it gets to a point where it's quite bad, it may be through your doctors or a CAM service. But these are all things that I will go into later on when we continue.
yeah. Also, I just wanted to ask, have you got any, like, you know, recommendations as to where people could go to actually look for help, like professional help?
Yes, so there's quite a few organizations around. There's a really good organization called Young Minds, which kind of offers kind of useful tools about what anxiety is. It doesn't just focus on anxiety. They also focus on, like, for example, OCDs, that tie in with anxiety as well, other behavior patterns that go alongside anxiety, also generalized anxiety as well. Normally, if you contact your doctor will sometimes do, if it's something that is quite severe anxiety that may have also self-harm involved with it as well. They may, or suicidal ideation as well, which means, you know, having suicidal thoughts. They then may refer you on to a CAMS that looks at mental health within young people. Or you can join an activity club. Now, a lot of people look at anxiety of kind of, sometimes when your brain is thinking of so many different things at the same time, is actually finding an activity, and that may be the gym, it may be tennis club, it may be swimming, it may be chess club. Is finding an activity to distract yourself from. And what that also does, it creates a mini community, because when you go into these safe spaces and you find an activity to connect with, you actually find an environment of a environment that's different to your own. So it will be new faces, new people, and also you're talking about a sport, so you then have a shared interest that promotes healthy conversation. Other things as well we talk about looking at is also creating a healthy toolkit, which is, I mentioned this earlier, but a soothe box. Now, a soothe box is something that we can create that has items in this box or memories that can help bring us down to a very calm, relaxed feeling where we can connect with our emotions. And within this sensory box, you may have things that you can touch, and you may have memories. So that can be photographs, it can be clips of things, it can be a color book. So it could be art like mindfulness coloring. It can be chocolate in this soothe box. There can be books, your favorite book you want to read in this soothe box. It can be oils like lavender, and that helps calm the senses. And all these are to help support you coming back around to a place of stillness and calm. Other things you can also do is create positive affirmations. So if you know sometimes you get in moods where you can feel quite down, sometimes people can have these moods also around PMS. You know, so just before the start of a period, we can have quite low moods as well. So it can be quite triggering because our emotions are heightened. Or around very stressful periods, like, for example, like I said before, exam times or a job interview. We sometimes need positive affirmations that we can read on a daily basis. So you may have a block of affirmation cards that every morning you wake up and it says an affirmation, and it just kind of gets you into the right tempo. You may also have mantras as well. So things that you tell yourself. Now, I've saw people do this in ways where they write on a bedroom mirror that sits in the middle of their room in lipstick. And it has a mantra, something that you say to yourself every day. And that may be something that you could use, Jemima, when you talk about, you know, with the thing with the bus, you know, what do I need to tell myself to give myself that courage to leave the house and carry out my daily activity? And so when you find that quote or what that line, and also it could be a line of a song, just put it there. It could be on a mirror, it could be on a vision board, it could be something that you have on your phone in notes. But it's something that can remind you about who you are and the power that you hold internally. And then to end that is physical exercise such as like yoga, and then healthy conversations. So sitting with a friend and having a conversation about things is very different. So sitting with a friend and saying, you know what, now I've sat down, I've taken time out to think about what happened, it really bothered me, or it made me feel this type of way. You know, be very unapologetic about how you feel. I think sometimes we're scared to say exactly how they feel, but that's your right to really say, actually, no, I'm angry. Actually, I'm really upset. Actually, I just want to cry. Actually, I need a hug.
Yeah.
And that's that space for you to say, this is what I need. Yeah. And can you give me this? And if they can't, you have all these other things like the soothe box, the positive affirmations to provide you with that boundary, that protective circle to help bring you to a place of that is again calm and healing.
That's good. That's good. That's good. I definitely I'm going to go into it. Honestly, is there anything you want to add before we get into?
There are some apps as well, some apps, and some of them are free. That people can just go on. Obviously, it'd be different. The wording may be different on iPhone to Androids, but it should be the same thing. So you have Mindful Naps, which is a great app. They have just different activities and exercises that you can do. So if you're in commute somewhere, they're perfect. You have I Breathe. It has like a range of sections of breathing exercises. Tide, Colorify, Mind Shift. So something give you really kind of a down mood. You can go into this app to help shift your mood to a different place. Another one which is actually quite new is a resource that is really, really good and that I come across. It's called Me Too app. And it's actually for young people age 11 plus. And it's actually a community where you can find other people your age that are over the age of 11 and where you can share experiences. It's kind of like a Clubhouse.
Okay.
Or like I would say more like a Clubhouse or probably a Snapchat kind of thing, but it's for 11 young people 11 plus, and it's a space like a forum where you can get tips and advice, or you don't feel so isolated in your levels of anxiety, or you're not hearing, oh, you're not anxious, you're just upset, or you're not anxious, you're just angry. You know, it's a place where it's for support and healing. So that's a great app as well. And obviously Anxiety UK always has new information, up-to-date information. We can get kind of information on anxiety and how to manage your anxiety. And just kind of get that support moving forward.
Okay. So just to confirm. So as an individual, I myself, if I go through a situation, I'm more likely to know what my trigger was. In the case that I don't know what my trigger is, to what triggers the anxiety or what it is, how do I go about finding it? And when I find it, would you say I should face it straight ahead or avoid it?
Oh, no. So when it comes to avoiding triggers, it's never good long term to avoid triggers. But there's also no rush to face them. Like a lot of things are about process. So I would always recommend getting support. And that could be in one-to-one therapy, or it could be in group therapy. Now, I like both. Now, one-to-one therapy, you're sitting with a therapist and you're explaining about what happened, and the therapist is holding a space for you and providing that form of healing through different forms of treatment. However, in group therapy, it's almost like a mini society is there. So you have a mini support group where you can actually play things out. You know, you have people who can actually ask questions on it. So it gives you a deeper understanding of what those triggers are. Also, there's a great thing that therapists do is called the window of tolerance. So also knowing what your own triggers are and knowing when you're close to that episode, close to having that anxiety attack. Because when you're aware of those triggers specifically, when you see the signs, you're able then to not prevent them, but you're able to get yourself in a place of feeling quite calm that may prolong something happening or taking place enough time for you to get the support that's needed. And that may be a phone call to someone that you trust. It may be to a safe space. It may be to enough time to go and get out your soothe box and explore these different things and connect for you to become grounded all in one. But avoiding things long term only creates further problems, and actually it moves you further away from society, because then it builds up a bigger fear of re-engaging with the local community, and that's obviously not what we want long term.
Yeah. Okay. So all I want to say before closing off, like I said in one of the videos we recorded yesterday, came to the conclusion that we have to normalize vulnerability. Mm-hmm. We definitely have to normalize vulnerability, and it's not a weakness. It's not a weakness. It just makes you human. And I learned quite a lot personally. I've learned quite a lot in this recording. Thank you so much.
Nice.
I've got a lot of work to do. Yeah. So anything you want to say before we close off? Any way you want to direct the viewers to go to if they want to, personally connect and ask you more questions?
Yes. So I think I just want to first just echo what you said about vulnerability. Me being a Black woman, I've kind of tried to steer away from the notion of the strong Black woman and understand the power in vulnerability. We get some clicks for that.
Yes.
And in any racial background as well, is that sometimes we're born into a role being a young female or a young male. And each role that we're born into comes with such a heavy responsibility. But I just have to encourage you guys, in order to be the best person for everyone else, we have to give ourselves first. We have to pour into our own cup, and we have to feed that space and that younger sense of self, because we can't give quality if we're not giving ourselves anything else. So I'll end on that note. I'm also launching an organization called the Echo Response. So you can find it on social media, on Instagram. It's in its kind of tribal stages. The Echo Response. Also, my personal is which is open as well, to see how I balance life and work, which is always good to see from a therapeutic perspective, because we have to always balance as well. So, it doesn't stop in your careers. You don't automatically become this person on a pedestal. Is that we live and we challenge things every day of our lives, and we are people, and like you're people, and we make mistakes. And the beauty of mistakes is about we get to revisit those mistakes over and over again and make them better. And that is a part of the journey. So once you fall, remember, take note of your surroundings, because when you fall again, you know how to get back up. And that's life. Every step ahead of you, just keep moving forward. So you can find it in the handle when this video gets posted, but you can find me at the Echo Response. And I'm excited. Thank you for having me, Jemima. It's been amazing. Your energy is amazing. And I'm so excited by your passion and joy and your confidence. And just being here with you in this space excite me and the younger generation to come, because you're amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Honestly, guys, you heard it all here. You literally heard it all here. So definitely, for more information, go check out Life Proof UK on IG, and that's LYFEPROOF UK on IG, and leave us a DM if you have any questions or any info. And do check out, all the other details will be in the handle below for you guys. Do you like this video? Subscribe, share it. You might not need it, but you might know someone that does. So do share this video to your friends and family. Let's normalize vulnerability. And guys, let's take care of ourselves. Thank you so much for your time. I very much appreciate talking to you. And I learned quite a lot. And I hope that everyone that watches this video learns quite a lot and moves and grows from it as well. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.